into the comments here just a minute in depth, but I saw one pop up that is in this vein of conversation. So Dustin Hooten, what's up, Dustin? He's in my neck of the woods. Have you done dark black stain? How did the extra heat affect drying warping of the wood? Do you guys see much difference?
No, not really.
Versus pecan?
The black really doesn't fade as far as, black is black. So once you put the black on, it pretty much stays black. Now, if you've got a treated pine, like a ranch rail fence or something that's got a lot of sap in it, the darker colors will tend to make the fence get hotter, and sap could ooze out a little more certain times of the year. But as far as warping, cracking, and twisting, no, don't really see that because you've got all the oil in there. The oil is really, the stain color is just for looks. The oil is what actually does the protection inside the wood, holds everything together.
Yeah, and Dustin, so you might have had experience maybe with like a water-based that doesn't penetrate. Maybe, Caleb, I'm thinking that might, because if you trap the moisture in and then you dry it quickly by heating it up.
You get bad warping then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So oil lets water move in and out. It just slows it way down. And then it slows it down. So it slows it down a lot, almost to a crawl, but it still allows the wood to breathe in and out. When you put a film forming stain and it can't breathe in and out, that's where you wind up with, trapped moisture. And what happens if you get moisture trapped under your vinyl floor in your house, you get mold and things like that. And so no difference. It's about the same. You can think of a fence post like a big, huge bundle of straws in your hand, so, it's constantly breathing in and out. And when you wrap that in plastic, it can't breathe anymore.
Yeah. And it probably depends on the type of material being used. Like you'd reference cedar versus like a treated pine. Mm-hmm. Also, so if we think about the reason wood materials warp, it typically is one side drying faster than the other.
Yep.
Predominantly. So if you use a penetrating oil-based stain, I mean, obviously Expert line is one of them. There's options, but if you use if it's a penetrating oil stain, that's when you get the breathability, right? That it dries more evenly. It could actually lead to less warping and twisting because it's allowing it to dry evenly rather than one side drying before the other. Is that on track?
Yeah. And so you think about this. If you were to take a sheet of paper on your back porch or take a sheet of paper, wet it down with water, and then put it on your back porch to dry in the sun. As it dries, it's going to crinkle up, and you know what I mean? It's going to fold, it changes, it warps, it kind of curls up. If you were to take that same sheet of paper dry and put it into oil and then set it on your porch and lay it out in the sun, it's going to just lay flat. And it's kind of the same principle. Just that oil stays in the wood and it keeps it wet, keeps it moist, and it's not water moist, it's oil moist, but it still holds it together. So it makes a big difference.
And it lets that, and the breathing is the key point, right? It lets the moisture stay consistent throughout the product.
And I think all penetrating oil-based stains sometimes get compared to other products in an incorrect manner. A lot of water-based paints and stains, the only thing that they're there for is for the color to go on the fence or the deck or whatever and just stay there. And we're going to brag about our color lasts the longest. But if you have a beautiful color on a warped up, twisted up fence that looks like a snake, if you look down the top of the fence and it looks like this, what's the point, right? It looks terrible. And specifically if it starts to rot because it can't breathe. And so an oil-based stain, the pigment on the surface, that's more of a sacrificial layer to block the sun, keep the fence from turning gray. The oil itself is what protects the fence. And so the reason we do penetrating oil-based finishes is because they actually will preserve the wood, make the wood last longer. So when you build a fence, it's okay to stain it every 3, 4, 5 years, but you don't want to replace it every 7 years, so water-based stains are just you're still going to have that replacement factor. So the oil is really what will make the wood last longer. So, saying, hey, a penetrating oil-based stain only, it really needs restained every 4 years versus a water-based that might say 6 years. It's still a big difference. Color is not everything. So we need to remember that. There's a fence, it's poplar, that I drive by a lot, and Guardian Stain and Sale, which is based in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, stained it. And they stained it in 2018, and they used sable. And this was when we were first started. You know, we were very new to making stain. It was our first year selling to the public. 2017 or 2018 was, and I delivered the stain out to this job site for them, dropped it off that morning, and the tops of the fence, the top rails, you know, this is a ranch rail, 4-rail, were wet, you know, from just dew, moisture.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about staining poplar, it's sort of a hardwood, and so it's a really fibrous hardwood, and it's very difficult to stain. You know, it usually requires multiple light coats instead of one heavy coat. So anyways, I texted these guys and I said, hey, I dropped the stain off, but I sent them a picture. I said, but the top rails of this fence, the tops of each rail is wet. I wouldn't stain it till the afternoon. And I came by later that morning at like 10:30 and the fence was stained. They were gone. And I thought, oh, okay. But they did a beautiful job on it. And I drove by that fence yesterday, and there's some fading on the fence, still looks great. And on that same route, I drive by a bunch of other oil-based and water-based stains that are more film forming, and that were stained 2-3 years after that fence, and there's nothing left. They look terrible. And so, you know, it comes and goes, but sometimes that penetrating oil will really outlast a film former, but not always.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
well, I think
straight.
by and large.
Yeah.